Okay, listeners, so there are a few things you probably know about me. One is that I'm on the road a lot. Two is that I walk a lot. I love to walk. And also that I live in New Hampshire. And the weather here is pretty unpredictable, doesn't matter the season, and it's wet a lot. So there are these great new shoes that I have been so lucky to be able to wear. They are from Vessi, and they are called the Courtside Classic. That's me. So I love the way that these look. I love that they're waterproof. They're super comfortable, which every Vessi shoe that I've had has been incredibly comfortable. So if you are interested in getting an incredibly stylish and versatile and absolutely functional pair of sneakers, the Courtside Classic, these are the ones you want to go with. Head out in the rain with the Courtside Classic, Vessi's 90s inspired sneakers. Discover more waterproof styles at vessi.com/flusterclux. Get your pair today to get an automatic 15% off your first purchase at checkout. Oftentimes, when we are rushing, when we are pushing with toddlers, when we're trying to get things done, and I get the reality of the world, believe me, the times when they get the most irritable, when the times when you get the most frustrated is when you're trying to meet some time deadline and you've got this idea in your head. So find a period of time in which there is nothing that needs to be done except for this exploration, and you are just the chaperone.
Welcome to Season 7 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we'll talk about managing anxiety and all the other emotions too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author. I've been a therapist for 35 years. Parenting can be a flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll tell you what to do and what to say.
Hey, Lynn.
Hi, Robin.
Today, we got a listener question that I thought would be really fun to do. We're going to talk about toddlers today. We're going to talk about those early years of parenting and things to do. And here was the listener question.
Okay, I'm ready.
As a pediatric clinician and new mom of a 15-month-old, your podcast has been life-changing for me and my practice. Yay, we love hearing that. Thank you.
Yes, we do.
I would love it if you could do an episode on all things toddlers, temper tantrums, toilet training, picky eating. How do we promote emotional management right from the start? And what does it look like when our kids are too young for us to do any front loading, which is a term that you use a lot with them? I thought this was a great thing because obviously picky eating and toilet training and many other wonderful things about toddler parenting that can be very difficult for parents. If we take a step back and we really talk about that emotional management piece, what are the seeds of emotional management that we can start planting when we've got little bitty ones? And I thought this would be a really great conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I love toddlers. When I'm talking about emotional management, when I'm giving my talks that I give, I'll say emotional management is something that we aren't born with. People don't come out with the skills of emotional management. And I always say that's why toddlers are both hysterical and exhausting, because they have very few emotional management skills. So they're all over the place. And then our job is to start planting those seeds, start modeling the things, start using the language, start developing in them and us as parents the ability to tolerate life as it's coming at you.
I think I really learned that from you, where if you're really focusing on the emotional management and the connection and the right type of language, you bring those skills to picky eating, toilet training, bedtime. Let's not get into the content of the difficult things. We take a step back and we look at the situations that affect us all.
Right. We're bringing it up. So we're looking at the bigger overall strategies, the bigger overall umbrella that helps us develop these important skills in our kids. If we're talking about picky eaters, or we're talking about bedtime, or how do we get our kids out of the house on time, and what if our toddler does this, all of these things have something in common. I also just want to mention, because this is really, really true, is that temperament is often genetically mediated. If you have a child that has a really difficult temperament, difficult meaning maybe more rigid, or they were fussier as a baby, or they're a little behaviorally inhibited, we say, so they have sort of difficulty stepping into the world compared to some other kids, there's a possibility that you and your partner, either one of you, might have that temperament also. It has been my experience that when you have a temperament that is difficult for you to manage, we would think, oh, I understand it. This makes me really empathic. I get it. It makes it a little more challenging for you to manage that in your child. So you just have to be aware of your own patterns and your own temperament as you're raising this toddler that might be a reflection of you or might be a reflection of your partner, either way.
Isn't that also what you often say? If it's nature, it's you. And if it's nurture, it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true. And we know it is this combination of two things that we've got this environment that then we are creating an environment for our kids. And we're creating this environment based on our personality, based on what's important to us. And so sometimes, man, it just feels like you are paddling upstream because you're like, I don't want my kid to be as stubborn as I am, or I don't want my kid to be as rigid as my partner. And so then you've got to find a way to model these things and manage these things. Parenting is hard. Let's just say that parenting is hard.
Parenting's really hard.
It is hard, but it's so gratifying.
Yes. Most gratifying and most challenging.
Most gratifying and most challenging.
So the points before we take a break, I think what we're going to talk about today include that flexibility, curiosity.
And what attention means to your toddler and how giving attention to your kids, especially when they're little, is something you also really want to pay attention to.
We'll be right back.
Did you know that Americans take about 20,000 breaths a day and spend an average of 90% of their time indoors? The indoor air that we breathe can be up to 100 times more polluted than the outdoor air, according to the EPA. Indoor air pollutants can cause respiratory symptoms like sneezing, congestion, scratchy throat, and even more serious health problems like lung and heart disease. So what's the solution? Introducing Air Doctor, the air purifier that filters out 99.99% of dangerous contaminants so your lungs don't have to. This includes allergens, pollen, pet dander, dust mites, mold spores, and even bacteria and viruses. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't just love it, send it back for a refund minus shipping. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use the promo code Flusterclux, and you'll receive up to $300 off the air purifier. Exclusive to podcast customers, you will also receive a free 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. So lock this special offer by going to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code Flusterclux. So I love hiking. I spend as much time as I can going up and down mountains in New Hampshire. And I'll tell you, staying hydrated is one of the key things that you need to think about. And I love Liquid IV. My favorite flavor, it's the blackberry. I love it. I bring it with me hiking. I also bring it in my water bottle when I go to the gym. There's also the Hydration Multiplier Plus Energy, which delivers energy comparable to 1 to 2 cups of coffee through about 100 milligrams of naturally occurring caffeine. You can get a delicious, hydrating beverage with Liquid IV. This all-in-one formula provides mind and body energy. Tear, pour, live more. You take 1 stick and 16 ounces of water. It hydrates better than water alone. It's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and it is always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So take on the great outdoors or just take on your busy life. Get Liquid IV 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code FLUSTER at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code FLUSTER at liquidiv.com.
If you're a new parent, A bad day means you either ran out of coffee, diapers, patience, or all of the above. Stocking up on cold brew and deep breaths are all on you, but at least Hello Bello's got your baby's butt covered. Hello Bello believes all families deserve premium, affordable baby products. With their ultra-convenient diaper bundle subscription service that includes 7 packs of diapers and 4 packs of plant-based wipes, you'll never run out of supplies. And better yet, they're delivered to your door. So set, change, and cancel your delivery schedule whenever you want. You know what my favorite words are when I was a young parent? Autopilot. Anything that could be autopilot that did not require my tired, sleep-deprived brain was a winner for me. And I love that Hello Bello's diaper subscription gives you all of the product that you need to have, and you don't even have to think about it. New York Magazine named Hello Bello the best diaper subscription, and it's a winner of the 2022 Good Housekeeping Parenting Award. Hello Bello will keep you well stocked on diapers and wipes. Go to hellobello.com/fluster to get 30% off your first customized bundle and a full-sized freebie product of your choice. That's hellobello.com/fluster to start bundling with 30% off your first order. Don't forget, that's hellobello.com/fluster.
Okay, we're back.
So, Lynn, when you talk about attention and connection, one of the things I think is very cool is that every family often has a baby culture, because this is what you say to babies and this is what then you say to your grandkids. Then you have a baby and their other family members who have all these songs or sayings that you didn't have growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that your mom said to you all the time because you were a very chatty baby. I'm so glad you outgrew that.
Yeah.
Was you tell the best stories. And I thought it's such a lovely thing, because there's that great viral meme of the wonderful father and son on the TV where the dad is pretending to have a conversation, or he is having a conversation, but the baby is contributing in baby talk and the dad is treating it and very respectfully like a real conversation.
Yep. And leading him along and responding and reacting.
And that was such a brilliant example of encouraging children to communicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so when we talk about attention, giving our kids attention, we're really talking about connection. I don't mean that you have to be like hanging on your child's every word. And I certainly don't mean that you have to give them everything they want all the time. That's not what we're talking about. But when we're talking about the level of connection, it means that you should spend time with your toddler in which you are completely focusing and interacting with them. And even when I say that, when I hear myself say that, I can imagine that people are like, oh my God, here we go, right? I have to sit and stare into my child's eyes and engage in conversation. It happens all the time pretty organically. So just as an example, say you are in the grocery store and you are pushing your toddler in the grocery cart and they're sitting in the grocery carriage and you are face to face. This is an opportunity for you as you're doing your grocery shopping to engage in these conversations where you're offering words, you're pointing things out, you're teaching them language, you're teaching them colors, you're teaching them counting. You have to make sure that there are periods of time as a parent where you really get into it. Not all the time, because I know it's exhausting and we want them to be able to play with other kids and play on their own, but periods of time when you are really focused. Another time to do that, which is a time that I loved with my boys when they were little, is sitting and reading picture books, reading aloud, going to the library, taking 10 books out of the library, coming home and sitting and going through those books, or having a collection of books in your house that then they begin to know the words, right? Some of you can probably relate to this where you've gone through these books and then you try and skip a page because you're like, you don't want to read this book for the 87th time. And they're like, no, you missed a page. All of that engagement, all of that attention, all of that you focusing and developing their language, their responses, how they interact and communicate, all of that is critical to the development of a child's language and a child's learning.
It's true. We're both chatty people. So the idea of chatting with our toddlers in shopping carts is sort of natural. I respect that there are some parents who that is actually a more challenging situation where they won't necessarily have the ability. And I think that reading aloud starting them young, if you especially have an incredibly introverted temperament and you're not good with conversation, reading aloud gives you the script.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so when we talk about that behaviorally inhibited temperament, right, it's genetically mediated. It means you're sort of shy and quiet and more introverted. So it might be hard for you to do that. I think that's a great point. It doesn't come naturally, but then you can sit back and the books sort of serve as your guide, right, as your prop, as your coach as you go through it. And it gives you lots of things to talk about.
I would venture the next time, if you had a young child, the next time you went to the grocery store, you left your phone in your car.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a very different trip to the grocery store.
It would be a very different trip. And I know that probably people are sick of me talking about not giving kids screens. I'll tell you, just get used to it, people. But when I'm in the grocery store and I see little toddlers with the iPad in front of them, I get it because people have worked, they're exhausted, they're at the grocery store. But if you left all screens in the car and you went through the grocery store with your toddler and it was your job now, you've got to talk to them, keep them entertained, you're going to teach them things. What does a toddler learn? This is a good example, right? Where we're talking about building skills. What does a toddler learn in the grocery store if they don't have a screen in front of them that's keeping them distracted? They learn language. They learn observation. They learn to tolerate not getting what they want because every toddler sees the shiny thing, sees the sweet thing, sees the fun thing. Grocery stores are set up to pull you into the products that they're trying to sell. So they learn to tolerate no. They learn to ask for things. They learn what's a part of your family in terms of their diet and what's not a part of your family in terms of their diet. Taking kids grocery shopping, even though it probably sounds like torture for some people, and I'll tell you, sometimes it is actually torture, is a really great opportunity for your kids to learn a lot of these skills that we're talking about. It's just a great place. It's full of stimulation. It's full of opportunity. So take them grocery shopping without any screens and talk and laugh and be silly.
Before we even knew that much about cell phones, when my kids were younger and I was with them all the time, I remember I discovered that if I decided to leave my phone home for the day at that time and we would go run errands and then go to the park, we all came home a lot happier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just an interesting thing. And again, I know you guys are sick of hearing about smartphones, but they are designed to be distracting. They are designed to take you out of the moment. And I think when I'm talking about connection and attention with our toddlers, I'm talking about being in the moment with them and hearing the amazingly cute and spontaneous and funny things they say, responding to their questions, seeing what they're observing, seeing what they remember. If you've hung out with a toddler, isn't it shocking sometimes what they remember? So you went someplace and then you didn't go back there for a month and they're like, I remember when we were here last time, we got a banana. And you're like, oh my gosh, if you can just give yourself the joy of paying attention and the joy of connecting, I think it's going to be way, way, way better than Snapchat and Twitter. It really is.
Oh, you mean for the parents?
Yeah, for the parents. Yeah, don't give your toddler Twitter.
You can give your toddler Twitter after the election.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that probably you shouldn't give your toddler Twitter. Yeah, there we go.
One of the things that I recall, we have a different age gap. So our kids are older and younger than each other, and the phones were more prevalent, especially with my youngest. One of the things that I felt sometimes if I was sucked into my phone that day, because there was like a fire at work I was trying to manage, et cetera. So I wasn't...
Not a literal fire.
Correct. I was not in that field. So if something was going on though, and I could tell I was really distracted, I've always known your full attention is one of the greatest gifts you can give somebody. Mm-hmm. In a marriage, in a friendship, everything. So one of the ways I would reset that helped me is we would go sit on our front step outside and we would close our eyes and play the sound game. And just like, let's close our eyes and try and identify every sound we hear. And it was great for me too. It was just like a simple focus, attention span way. And it didn't take a lot of effort for me to do it, but it had great benefit. So that is a working mom parenting hack for you.
Yeah, that is a really good parenting hack. The other thing too, as you're talking about this and we're talking about attention and we're talking about focus, is that there is really something called toddler time. They don't do things as quickly as we do. And so our impatience or our need to get things done or our need to move through things quickly can really impede their exploration. And so the parenting hack that I used to use is that when they were little, we would go for walks. This is when they could walk. So they were out of their stroller or whatever. I let them stop and pick things up. I was not walking on my time frame. I was walking on their time frame. It reminds me of when you're walking your dog, you're supposed to let your dog sniff because that's really interesting to them and it's really good for their brain and it tires them out. It's the same concept with a toddler. You're not going to get very far, but you allow them to stop and do what they want to do along the way. And then you are just sort of the commentary in the background, like, oh, that's an interesting rock. Oh, do you want me to hold that for you? Oh, gosh, you picked 5 dandelions. And you're just giving them that language, but you're slowing down and allowing things to go at their pace. Oftentimes, when we are rushing, when we are pushing with toddlers, when we're trying to get things done, and I get the reality of the world, believe me, the times when they get the most irritable, the times when you get the most frustrated is when you're trying to meet some time deadline and you've got this idea in your head. So find a period of time in which there is nothing that needs to be done except for this exploration, and you are just the chaperone.
In my day job, I'm a travel advisor. And we traveled a lot with our daughter when she was a toddler. And I always say, like, the most enjoyable trip you can take with a toddler is to go somewhere that has a beautiful outdoor garden, lawn, like no matter what size, of course, nature too. But if you stay somewhere and you can just explore the grounds on their terms, that's a full day and it's brilliant. So going to public gardens, sometimes I always remind parents, public gardens are also as fun for you as it is for them, whereas parks aren't always as fun for you.
That's a great idea. The other thing too, is you're allowing your kids to explore, that's really important with toddlers. And this is where if you tend to be a little bit more anxious as a parent, or if this is your first little toddler and you're not sure about what they can handle and what they can't handle, is that it is absolutely helpful for them to be able to take a little bit of risk. So if your propensity is to jump in really quickly, remember with that safety language, oh, be careful, oh, watch out. Of course, you're not going to let them do something that's way out of their realm, but allowing them to push themselves a little bit, allowing them to take some risk physically, having a little bit of distance from you. You can see them. They're over looking at something is a hugely, hugely important part of development. And that continues actually through their whole lives, all the time that you're raising them. But with little toddlers, giving them the opportunity to do things that maybe make you a little bit uncomfortable.
Give us an example.
Okay, so they want to climb up a slide. They want to go down a slide. And you think to yourself, oh God, they can't climb up that slide. They're not going to be able to climb up that slide. Look, you stand behind, but you let them climb up the slide. You let them do it. You let them get up there. You're there in case they slip or fall. And guess what? It's okay for toddlers to have slips and falls, and it's okay for them to bump their head. It's okay for them to scrape their knees. But you're there, but you let them do it, and you keep your mouth shut, right? You might say that encouraging thing like, look at you go, or wow, you're really doing that. But you let them do it. You let them jump in puddles. There's a video going around of this, I think it's a Danish preschool, where there's a big, huge puddle. They set up milk crates like a little staircase. They're all in a line, and they go up one milk crate, the next milk crate, the third milk crate, and they jump in the puddle. And then they go to the back of the line, and the teacher is just standing there, and these little kids are going up and down and jumping off the milk crate into this big puddle of mud. All of that exploration and all of that using their body and experiencing different things is a really important part of their growth. And here's the thing, guys, they sleep better. When their brains are learning and when they're stepping into these things, when they're having these little adventures, it's supposed to tire them out. And so that's really helpful to you too. If you can make the investment in that, let them be curious, let them explore, let them use up that energy. It's really good for everybody.
Just to be very clear to all the listeners, you just framed that in a very positive and proactive way of encourage curiosity with movement or other kinds of curiosity.
Sure.
But let's take it and spell it out. Talk about the parent whose safety chatter says you can't climb up that slide. I mean, let's talk about that impact a little bit.
Yeah. So the parent might say, you can't climb up that slide. Then they also may, if you tend to be catastrophic, they go the next step and they say, the reason you can't climb up that slide is because you could fall down and break your arm.
Or break your neck.
Yeah, break your neck. I mean, long ago, I had this parent and she totally said, oh my God, that's me. She had 3 boys and she said her boys would be running around the house and she'd be like, you're going to trip and the corner of that coffee table is going to poke your eyeball out and your eye is going to explode and there is going to be eyeball everywhere. Is that what you want? And one of her boys would be like, no. And the other one was like, ha, 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 that's cool. So it was a challenge for her. But that kind of safety chatter. So if you're catastrophic, you talk a lot about potential injury. You talk a lot about what could go wrong. And then generally, you don't let them try it. Say you have a little kid who wants to walk on the curb or wants to walk along a fence. And so you put them up on the fence. You know, we got a lot of rock walls here in New England. So they're up on the rock wall. You hold their hand and you let them walk along the rock wall, but you keep your mouth shut. You don't keep talking about what could happen. You don't keep talking about the danger of the rock wall. You let them do it. You let them explore. So the catastrophic language, the warning, the oh no, watch out, all of that, swallow that, swallow that, swallow that.
When we come back, let's talk about the really big one because it's connected most to meltdowns. And that would be promoting flexibility.
Ah, yes. Good old flexibility.
Being an adult has its high points, like you can eat ice cream for dinner anytime you want, and you get to pick out what you want to wear. But it's not all fun because you have to wash those clothes and iron them too. You also have to do your taxes and figure out what's for dinner every night and make doctor's appointments. And for that one, there's ZocDoc, the healthcare app that makes adulting much easier. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors. Choose the right one for your needs and click to instantly book an appointment. And we're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, where they're located, and who are a good fit for any medical need that you may have, and who are highly rated by verified patients. You can also see their actual appointment openings. Choose a time that works for you and click to instantly book a visit. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. Raising a family means that there are always medical emergencies of all scale. I love that ZocDoc is a reliable way for me to get the healthcare appointments that I need for my family. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Fluster to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/Fluster, ZocDoc.com/Fluster.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight.
A new school year starting soon, and personally, I can't believe I have an 8th grader on my hands as my youngest. So if you're a parent and you want to make this new school year an opportunity for your kids to learn important life skills and continue building independence, for that, I recommend Greenlight.
Greenlight's a debit card and a money app for families. Kids can learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, and parents can keep an eye on kids' new money habits.
Then there's Greenlight's Infinity Plan, which includes same access to the financial literacy education that makes Greenlight a valuable resource for millions of parents and kids, plus new built-in safety features to give you peace of mind, everything from location sharing, SOS alerts for 911 dispatch, and car crash detection.
But at its core, Greenlight is unique because it builds autonomy with a chores feature that lets you reward your kids for honoring their responsibilities around the house. You can help kids get into their fall routine more easily than ever and build responsibility and autonomy, 2 things that I love.
And you'll remember to pay them.
Yeah, that's right.
I confess I Was not so good about that before, and now I have no excuse.
So, no matter which features make the most sense for your household, Greenlight is the easy, convenient way for parents to raise financially smart kids and for families to navigate life together.
Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/fluster. That's greenlight.com/fluster to try Greenlight for free.
Greenlight.com/fluster. Hey everybody, it's Lynn. I wanted to let you know that I have another training coming up September 20th. This is an in-person training in New Hampshire. It is for clinicians, educators, OTs, speech and language people, those that work in schools. It is called Anxiety, Depression, and School Avoidance, Creating Plans for Middle and High School Students. It is a 5-hour training. You get CE hours are included. All of the information is on my website, lynlyons.com. That's September 20th. It's in New Hampshire, in Manchester, New Hampshire. Educators, clinicians, packed full of information. How do we deal with school avoidance? What's the connection between anxiety and depression in our adolescence that we really want to pay attention to and that we really want to get ahead of? I'd love to see you there. Go to lynlyons.com. You'll see all the information to register. Okay, so now back to the show. All right, so flexibility.
This is a big one.
It is a big one. And here's why it's challenging, because developmentally, toddlers are kind of rigid because they love routines. They love doing things over and over again. They love reading the same book. They might like wearing the same pair of pants. My brother, your husband, wore a baseball cap, this one baseball cap every day for a long, long time. My son, as I've probably talked about, wore a superhero costume every day and night for 19 months. So there's rigidity there. They like that predictability. They like things to be the same. It's the way they sort of feel their power in the world, so to speak.
Right. It's going to show up because it's just developmentally there.
Correct.
Let's be specific about ages here.
Yeah. So we're talking about like 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah, so 2-year-olds love repetition. They want to play the same game over and over again. 1-year-olds do too. They want to read the same book. By the time they get to be 4, there's a little bit more flexibility. But in this question that this listener asked, she said, you can't really do the front loading when they're that little. How do you promote emotional management and flexibility when we're not going to talk about it in the same way? And what you do is you use opportunities to, for one, hugely important that your family values flexibility so that when they do something flexibly, you don't throw them a parade, but you make note of it. You say, oh, thank you so much for being flexible about blank. I know that you wanted to do this. Thank you for being flexible. You can teach them that word pretty early on. You can use the spaghetti as a way to really model it, the uncooked spaghetti. You can give a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old a piece of uncooked spaghetti and talk to them about how when you're rigid, you're like an uncooked piece of spaghetti. And then you can give them cooked spaghetti so they can see that they can make it into a circle. They can make it into a letter S. You want to talk to them about how flexibility means that sometimes you can't do exactly what you want when you want to do it. Now, this is pushing up directly against the toddler's modus operandi. I want to do what I want. I want to do it right now. It's extremely important. There's nothing more important to me than doing this thing that I want to do right now. You're going to say no sometimes. They're going to have a temper tantrum. They are going to be mad. Some kids are going to fall down on the floor and scream. Some kids are going to yell at you. Some kids are going to say things to you that you don't have to take personally, nor should you. They're going to figure out ways to get what they want. That's what toddlers do. That's what 3-year-olds do. That's what 4-year-olds do. It is a big period of transition for them because they are figuring out that they are separate from you. They are figuring out that they can go in the world and do things on their own and experience things on their own. And that is very exciting. And when you come in and get in the way of that, they don't take it so well. So flexibility during those toddler years means not that it's going to go perfectly, not that they're going to understand it on a meta level, but that you are going to say to them, thank you for being flexible, or I'm sorry, I know you wanted to do this, but right now we're going to do this. And you just keep consistently giving them that message, making sure, of course, that you are providing ample opportunity for them to take that walk when they get to do what they want to do. They are very, very interested in discovering what they're capable of. And so we don't want to thwart that at every turn. That's when anxious parents or controlling parents get in the way. So flexibility is the ability to say, I can't do it right now. It's going to make me mad. I can handle it. We do it with love and support and encouragement, and to not be reactive. Don't get into a fight with your toddler. They're 2, they're 3, they're 4. Yeah.
Where does the script that you're always like, well, of course you feel this way. The meltdown has happened. Of course, I see that you wanted to go to the park and go down that slide one more time. I see that you wanted that, and I'm sorry that you couldn't. What's kind of the language that you think you say, and how would you use the word flexibility or any other things? Because I think that language, you can be consistent with the way you console them when they don't get what they want, so that they were reminded these are those moments.
Yeah, of course, is a good thing to say. And you can just say to kids, this goes for your teenagers too, I understand that you don't like this. I hear or I see or I believe that you're really frustrated right now. I can see right now that you're really mad and we still have to leave. I know that you want to stay. I understand you want to stay, but we're going to leave. So you offer the empathy, you offer the acknowledgement of the feeling, you get it, you see it, and then you say, and we're still going to leave. So stringing those two things together.
If we take a step back with age and development too, because you can have that conversation with a 3-year-old.
For sure.
Let's talk about the use of distraction and when you need to eclipse distraction as your tool. Because I think it's very reasonable that when you have a 1-year-old or even a 2-year-old, distraction can still, I'm going to distract you from the thing that you want so that you forgot that you wanted it, so that we're going to move on to something else.
Yeah, that's true. And I talk a lot about distraction as an elimination strategy that I'm not a big fan of, except if you've heard me speak, I say, except if you have a toddler, don't give it up. Look over here. Totally fine.
But there's a point where you want us to stop doing
Well,
it.
it's a process. So you would say, oh, look over here if you've got a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old. Oh, look, we're going to do this. Oh, look at this fun thing. Oh, look, there's a chipmunk. Totally fine. Do that. As they get older, for one, the distraction starts to not work as well. So that's kind of your hint that you're not going to be able to use that technique as much. What you might say, your language might be, I know you're really upset about this. I know you want to keep doing this. We have to fill in the blank. And so as we walk to the car, as I carry you to the car, let's sing this song. So what you're saying to them is you're acknowledging transitions are hard. Transitions are really hard for toddlers. As we're transitioning, I'm going to help bridge you from one thing to another. So we're laying out the plan. We have to stop this. It's like a 3-part process. We have to stop this thing you want to do. We have to transition. And we have to get somewhere else. We have to do something else. During that transition, during that bridge, make it interesting somehow. Make it silly. Make it playful so that what they're learning is that I have to stop this thing. It's frustrating. I can manage that emotion and I can transition not only to another activity, but also I can transition into another way of feeling and thinking with mommy or daddy's help. So 3-part process. We have to stop this thing. We're going to bridge to this other thing. And then we're going to go here. A lot of parents just do this naturally and they don't even realize they're doing it. So it's time, they're playing and it's time to leave the house and you have to put their shoes on. This is what Mr. Rogers taught us, right? So we have a little song. We have this little transition thing that helps us go from one thing to another. So maybe you're putting on your child's shoes and you've got a song that you sing when you're tying their shoes. Give kids the opportunity to move from one thing to another with you bridging the gap with attention, with a little silliness, with some fun language helps a lot. And it's distraction in some way, but you're really sort of laying the groundwork for how do I go from one thing to another? How do I stop something that I don't feel like stopping or start something that I don't feel like starting? How are the ways that you can help your kids bridge that gap? Really helpful skill. We do it. Again, a lot of parents just do it naturally. You know who does it naturally? Like really good preschool teachers. They do it all the time. They have all these transition things that they do.
Right. To just lead the morning routine from one thing to another.
Right. Yep. And kids like routine. It feels good. They like when they know what's coming. They feel very accomplished when they can do the routine. So hang around a really skilled preschool teacher. There's a song they sing when they're picking up. They put on a certain piece of music when it's time to pick up. Kids like that. And then it helps them bridge that gap. My younger son, we used to call him the London air raid siren, because if I'd say we have to do this thing, he would go, right, and he'd scream. And I'd say to him, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere, but I also am not going to say yes when I said no. So let's hang out here for a minute. He would work through it. And then I would say to him, when you're ready for a hug, let me know. And that was kind of my transition of him. We have to stop this thing and go do this other thing. And you're going to get upset. I'm going to give you a hug, and then we're going to move on. That was kind of the routine that happened pretty frequently with him, particularly when he was 2.
That's when I met him.
Yeah. So he was doing all this while wearing a Superman costume.
He was. I'm glad I got to be a part of the family at that stage. So in essence, flexibility and distraction and curiosity and attention, everything that you're saying is really showing a present parent too. It requires your presence.
It requires your presence. Yep.
And that's why I told you my little sound hack, because it's impossible to be present all the time. And that's not what we're saying you have to do. But the best parenting is hard. It's hard. It's not easy.
And let me say this too. So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to be present all the time. There are parents who their goal is to be present all the time, to hang on their child's every word, to anticipate, to comment. I'm just going to tell you right now, hanging around with those parents is totally annoying. They are annoying. I don't want you to go to the other extreme and think that you have to make your child the center of your universe and that every breath they take, that you have to be there and you have to analyze it and think about it. As I'm saying these, and I like these words, flexibility, curiosity, being playful, being present, this is something that if you take it too seriously, if you make it something that you have to do, if you're so worried that you're going to screw it up, if you're trying to do it perfectly, you've defeated the purpose. The goal here is to allow things to unfold. And really the bottom line is enjoy your kids. Take delight in them and know that a lot of these things that toddlers do are absolutely a part of their development. They want to push away, they want to explore, they want to discover, and it's your job to allow that to happen, knowing that they're going to get frustrated, they're going to cry. You're going to say, do you want an apple? And they're going to say, yes. And you say, do you want me to cut it up? And they're going to say, yes. And then you're going to cut up the apple, you're going to hand it to them, and they're going to go, I didn't want my apple that way. I mean, sometimes they really sound like crazy people. Don't take it personally. Don't feel like you're screwing them up if you have a bad day. Just think in a consistent and fun and loving way. How are you going to be flexible? How are you going to be curious? How are you going to be present? You can do it. Parenting is hard, but let yourself have some fun. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.